I've never been more confident in myself. I've never been in a better place personally and professionally. And I've never built myself up to the point where I feel like I can meet all of these moments. We could cast a grand final of an IEM and like an epic game, and we could do a really good job. Like, I genuinely do believe that. Whereas I don't think that was true in 2019, to be honest, even with the excuses and all that kind of stuff. Even if I was in my peak form, I don't think that would have necessarily been true. I just honestly live for those moments, and it's the only thing that really keeps me going doing this. Trying to find that, chase the dragon and find that high again of doing a like arena cast where there's a crowd and it's a good game. There's honestly like no better feeling than that. And if I could do that all the time, I would. And I wish that there was a way to make that happen, but I just don't know what it is.
The other thing though that I wanted to talk to that was like, not one of the major highlight points of 22, but was quite a cool moment or quite a cool thing was the Fortress Host Masters, which was obviously a blast qualifier. So that was kind of cool as well to see another TO stepping into the space, and you were quite heavily involved in that. I had a couple of clashes, so I was not really supposed to be on that broadcast, but then I can't remember, something happened. Someone got COVID.
Komodo got COVID.
Yeah, Komodo got COVID, so I got like one or two broadcasts, and so we did a couple of those. And I think it was a good feeling, like just in general, to be like working with someone different. Not that I don't like working with ESL, but it's good to sort of have that mental job security of being like, oh well, I can get income from doing something else or whatever. It obviously also means more tournaments. And look, I know, by the time that event had ended, there was quite a lot of like discussion around, oh look, Fortress didn't do a great job necessarily of this and that, and Greyhound in particular had a few things to say.
Pains
but
when you start to do a CS tournament or a broadcast.
I think you got to look at that from the perspective of where esports was, 5 years ago, for example. Like when ESL first started, they made a lot of mistakes as well in Australia.
100%.
There was a lot of issues.
That's why they're so good.
Issues.
They fucked up until they succeeded.
So I think you kind of like, yes, you have to highlight the issues, but you kind of also have to cut some slack. So for me, it was great to see these broadcasts kind of coming through. And, I don't know how I feel about 2023 going forward, but at least heading into 2022, I had quite a degree of optimism. What about you? I mean, did you feel good about 2022? Do you feel like it was kind of getting going?
I think domestically I had a level of optimism. And I think I financially I'd made more money than I'd made in previous years. So like it was financially more rewarding than it had been. But I think, like I said, we had opposite perspectives on what 2020 was and what 2021 was. Like 2020 was hard, but at least we're doing prestigious events. 2021, the first 9 months until like we got some of those broadcasts made me feel like, okay, the 2020 was just a fluke, and it's going to be like this from now on. And that's where I was like, okay, I really need to lean into doing more domestic broadcasts and trying to open up my options in terms of what can be offered domestically. So 2022, I feel like, it was nice to do domestic broadcasts, but and I still do feel like this at the moment, where I feel like it's 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 going downhill in terms of opportunities, in terms of career progression, and in terms of me becoming better at what I do and better as a person and all that kind of stuff. So I think 2022 was a bit like that. It felt like, okay, I'm doing the same domestic broadcasts over and over and over again, and I've learned to get good at them. I've learned the formula, and I've learned to be good at my job to a certain degree, but there's no real growth. And outside of one or two moments, and I think OCE Masters was one of those moments, the ability to work with Fortress and get to do the actual live event was good. And that was quite close to Dreamhack. So I felt like I could do two kind of studio arena casts, which are, like you said, the main things that we look towards as like, this is what I can improve on, and this is where I can actually do my best work. And as opposed to 2019, where I got those opportunities and I couldn't live up to it and I was frustrated and I fucking hated myself. I think in 2022, they were less prestigious opportunities, but they were still like arena kind of situations. And I felt like I actually did fucking good casts.
Yeah.
And that was very like cathartic.
I think that's a perfect transition into Dreamhack Melbourne, which is what I wanted to talk about. I think the two big kind of highlight moments almost for you this year would have been Dreamhack Melbourne and going to coach Bonkers at APAC
Yeah.
Stage 1. So we'll talk about that after Dreamhack, but let's just keep it on CS since we're on the topic. Obviously, you've talked about the fact that 2019 was maybe a bit of a disappointment, and I've even got written down here that finally being able to have a good crack at an arena broadcast, I think was probably something that was going to be important to you. So I wanted to bring that up, and you've kind of already done that yourself. But we'll start from the top and start from, again, the thing about these events is like you almost never really know that you're doing them until it's like, yes, you are doing it. There's never
like 10 days before
there's
or something, bro.
there's never really a pat on the back that says, hey, just, I mean, to an extent there is. Like, I'm saying a bit of a fib when I say there's no pat on the back, because there was, at least to me, conversations that were like, hey, this is kind of what's happening, but no one could really say this, you are definitely going to be on it, or you are definitely not going to be on it. Yeah. Until, 2 weeks beforehand or something like that. So what's that kind of like going through like your mind? And because I can tell it from my perspective, but people have heard that, on the Conky episode and such and such. It's a difficult time, I think, as a caster to be knowing something big is on the horizon, but not knowing whether you're going to be involved.
Yeah, it's anxiety inducing, and I think it's something that always makes me like question everything and makes me think like I should just do something else, because at the end of the day, I owe so much of my career to ESL Australia and being in the right place at the right time and being given those opportunities. And it's always at times like that where you're not given the 100% or when you're not told exactly what's happening that I really question everything, and I really think to myself, like, at any moment, like, this could just all be taken away from me.
Yeah, I go through these sort of periods where like I think like, am I good enough? Did I get here because of luck? Because of people I know? Is it worth it for them to hire me? Blah blah blah. Like all of these kinds of things are going through your head, and in all that meanwhile, you're hearing, oh, this broadcast could be in Sweden. We could,
Oh, fuck, I
this
forgot about
this
that.
kind of thing, and the very fact that that's even being considered is like a fucking dagger
That was
getting
anxiety
stabbed into you,
inducing.
because you're like, I don't know how to frame this, but it kind of felt like, to me, it didn't matter how good we were, how much work we had done.
Yeah.
I was like, I fucking did a great job on IEM 2018, considering where I was in my career. I did a serviceable job in 2019, considering the circumstances.
Yeah.
I didn't fuck it. I did S tier broadcasts in 2021 or 2020, whatever.
Yeah.
I felt like going into 2022, I've never been more prepared. You know what I mean? Like I should be a fucking shoo-in. If you're gonna hire me in 2018 to do an IEM Sydney, you're gonna fucking hire me to do Dreamhack Melbourne. Like there should be no question about that. And that's maybe 100%. A bit of an ego thing, but it's also I'm 3 or 4 years deeper in my career. I am better than when I was 4 years ago.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter. So it's like it's this is
and
that
this is
whole ivory tower thing a little bit as well. It's like you're not
this is what I talk
you're not in.
About lately having all these thoughts about like drop the ego, drop the chip on your shoulder. It doesn't matter what you did. Like it might matter a little bit what you did last year, but it doesn't matter what you did the year before that. It doesn't matter what you did in 2018. None of this fucking shit matters, because when it comes down to the business side of things and when it comes down to the kind of people that like make hiring decisions and all that kind of stuff, you know everything about your career, but like no one cares. No one cares. That's the truth. No one cares.
There you go. Hard truths with Pilski. And obviously we were lucky enough to do the event in the end, and it sort of happened because of certain reasons and people pushing it domestically.
And best casting of my career.
Yeah, and we're standing there in Rod Laver Arena, and I can remember, I don't know if this was a conversation with you or with someone else, but I was saying like I kind of remember now why we do this. You know what I mean? Like it makes it worth it when you do manage to get that thing that you've been striving for, that you've been missing out on for multiple years, or and you finally get there. You're like, okay, we made it.
Yeah.
at least for another year, we can feel content in our success or whatever that may be. So
Yeah.
what was it like for you to finally have a crack at doing an arena broadcast properly and getting good games as well? Because, you know, this is a whole discussion point you've brought up already. You finally felt like you did a good job on an arena broadcast after all these years.
Yeah. It's fucking emotional, honestly. Like, I feel like I'm gonna cry or some shit. But like, um, especially after IEM in 2019 and like all of the COVID shit and like being knocked back down like a couple of pegs and all that kind of stuff. I feel like I was in the best form in terms of casting. I had experience, and I feel like it really does take. I feel like it takes, and this is the thing that like makes it so hard to swallow when people just pick up the mic and they like a year ago and they get all these opportunities. Is like I think to do a good job in a stadium and like meet the moment and do amazing things for most people. Maybe there's some freakishly talented people, but to actually like hit it really hard, like you need to grind for like 4, 5, 6 years and like do all this shit, you know? And like I feel like that I had done that and I was in the perfect position to kill like that stadium cast. And I felt like I did fucking kill that cast. And I feel like if I had the opportunities to do these stadium events and do these prestigious broadcasts, that I would be able to meet it and I would be able to do a good job. But these opportunities are just so few and far between now. And, you know, yeah, it's hard to deal with in a way because I feel like I've never been in a better position um to do a good job on these things. I've never been more confident in myself. I've never been in a better place personally and professionally. And I've never, you know, built myself up to the point where I feel like I can meet all of these moments. Like, I feel like, you know, we could cast like a grand final of an IEM and like an epic game and we could fucking do a really good job. Like, I genuinely do believe that. Whereas I don't think that was true in 2019, to be honest, even with the excuses and all that kind of stuff. Even if I was in my peak form, I don't think that would have necessarily been true. So yeah, I just honestly live for those moments, and it's the only thing that really keeps me going. Doing this, the novelty of Valorant and having something new to learn and wanting to do those broadcasts is keeping me going, and the you know trying to find that chase the dragon and find that high again of doing a fucking like arena cast where there's a crowd and it's a fucking good game. There's honestly like no better feeling than that. And if I could do that all the time, I fucking would. And I wish that there was a way to make that happen, but I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this. And again, this is not supposed to be about me, but I feel like obviously our paths kind of converge in a lot of places. So I mirror a lot of what you say and think. And the first thing I thought about was the opportunities coming at the right time. And it felt like for me and the same probably for you, right? With like 2017, 2018, 2019, these were opportunities that came like almost a little bit too early, at least for me, right? When I went to like ESL Pro League in Dallas, like season 7 finals or something like that. That is like, to me, I look at that as far as my career is concerned as like the crossroads, right? I either go one way and I become a fucking top CS caster or something like that. That's the chance. Like this point is the chance to make that happen. Or I don't do a great job, which is what ended up happening because of certain reasons. I come back to Australia and I'm forever Australian caster, which is fine. But like that point came too early for me. If it comes now, I'm more mature as a person. I'm a better caster. I'm more developed in my skill set, blah, blah, blah. Back then, I was like fucking 21 or 22, which, you know, for some people is enough to be an adult or whatever. But for me, I'd like lived out of home for like a year. I was still a kid back then. I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know how to network with people. I didn't know how to cast as well as I do. I was casting with Moses, which is obviously fucking intimidating at the time because like I'm just some noob
Moses
from
is the
Australia.
goat, by the way.
Yeah,
I
I've
look
got
up to Moses so
absolutely
much.
nothing against him, but like if I'm Moses in that situation, I'm thinking, what the fuck is this guy doing here? Like, why am I casting with Elfish guy from Australia and not like literally like anyone? You know, the thing was they went through like literally everyone they could try and they couldn't get anyone, and so it ended up being me. So it was like I think they went to like Pansy, Vince, Anders, I think, and like all of them couldn't do it for some reason. Asato had that fucking incident, so he wasn't at that event.
Yeah,
You know,
which number? Which one?
so like how how does it end up being me? That's what, and if I'm Moses, I'm thinking that. So like, there's this like obviously like this weird, just like I didn't feel
Yeah.
comfortable because I felt like I didn't really deserve
Power
to be
power
there, and
dynamic
he would
power
have felt
dynamic
like,
makes a big difference.
I mean, I've
It
never
really
spoken to him
does.
about it, but I probably should have at the time. You know what I mean? But you don't do
Yes.
that when you're a 21-year-old kid.
No.
And so he looks at that and goes, well, why am I casting with this guy? I look at him like, why am I even here? It doesn't work. Blah blah blah. So we
And
hit that point.
we've had those moments as well where we cast with people who have less experience, and
Yep.
like we've been those people. Like, I've been like I've been on the desk with Moses and that kind of stuff, like in the studio for groups. They might have thrown me on the desk or something like that. And I remember sitting next to him and feeling like, even though I was doing a decent job, feeling like inadequate, like
Mm-hmm.
feeling like I didn't have the same presence
Yep.
and
Yep.
the same ability.
Yeah, and so it's obviously something that you need to develop. And sometimes I kind of feel like those opportunities are gone now. Like then the entire esports ecosystem is so different now to what it was back then, that expecting to get just picked up and taken overseas for whatever random gig is just not going to happen anymore.
Yeah,
Like it
I
doesn't
don't think
work
so
like
either.
that. And that obviously very severely hinders your growth and your opportunities and your potential to sort of go and do all these big events.
Yeah.
Even though now you and I and many other people are already better casters than we were back then, it's a much harder road from here
Yeah.
than what it was back then. So that was that feeling. I can't even remember what the other couple of things you talked about there were, but I did have something to say. But regardless, probably going a bit off
It's
topic.
just, yeah, hitting the opportunity at the right time and trying to make the most of opportunities. And it is actually, we're just casting a video game, but it's such a like deep emotional and like, I wouldn't say spiritual is the right word, but it is about like what your purpose and what your whole, identity is built up around. And if you don't live up to those moments, it is quite crushing.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, bit of a disappointing or depressing turn of events there, but let's move on to something else. We talked about the coaching that you did for VCT.
Yeah.
And this was something that I don't think was really on the radar for you going into 2022. I mean, I know you
Bro,
were...
I feel like no one even fucking knows about this.
Well,
Like, to be honest.
here's your opportunity to learn. You were, you obviously been casting and whatever. You like Valorant, blah, 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 blah. All that kind of stuff. You're pretty tight with some of these Bonkers guys because I think you were like, you were coaching them in previous teams or something like that.
I will neither confirm nor deny that because I maybe should not have been doing
Whatever.
those things.
If you're
maybe I did coach
sitting
them,
in on
maybe.
scrims, let's just say you're sitting in on scrims and saying,
Oh,
yeah, whatever. Whatever, it doesn't matter. You know the guys a little bit, and so they qualified to go to APAC Stage 1.
Yeah.
And Jordation is their coach currently at the time. He can't go because of uni or something like that. And then
he just chose not to.
Whatever the case. And then they say, Pilly, do you want to coach us in It was in Thailand, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So how does that play out? Because obviously you have a lot of commitments already that are locked in at that time.
Yeah.
So you're trying to juggle doing this and that and whatever else. Plus, you're doing uni at the same time as well, I assume, and then go to Thailand and coach this team. So talk me through that.
Okay. So this is why, like, this is why it's so like soul crushing to me, the way that Valorant has gone. Because telling this story is going to tell you, like, it's going to show you, like, obviously it's from my perspective, so maybe I'm like trying to sell it or some shit like that, but I don't really care about that shit. It's like, this is like how much I fucking love this game and like want to make this game work and want to succeed in this game. And it's like, at the time I was like full-time study and like getting to the point where like, this is my last couple of semesters. I really want to finish my degree by a certain point. Obviously I was in my relationship at the time, and honestly, like things in my personal life were like quite hard at that time, for a lot of different reasons, which is there's no reason to go into. And also I was working and I had, casting work at the time. And I think I ended up having to turn down like, at least a couple of grand worth of casting work to do this, which was another consideration. But yeah, they asked me if I wanted to coach. It was a lot more than just coaching, I'll tell you that. It was fucking managing the whole team, organizing all of the visas for every player and organizing their flights and babysitting absolutely everyone and making sure that during COVID restrictions and all that kind of stuff, everyone had to get their vaccinations. Everybody had to make sure they had the right paperwork when they got to the airport, had to make sure all the players would, have the right things that they had access to and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't genuinely fucking believe that we were gonna all end up in Thailand at the end of the day. Like the way that this was going, like the level of like some of these kids had no experience with international travel or anything like that, and especially COVID adds another dimension to that. Some of them weren't vaccinated and all this fucking shit. So I had to organize all of that stuff. Shout out to fucking Kameen and Riot as well for like making sure that that would all become a reality, because Riot obviously paid ESL Thailand to host the Oceanic team, and they did such a good job. And Kameen and some of the people at ESL Thailand actually made that. I was talking to these people every day. Every day it was a new thing. Okay, I need to get this fucking player's visa. How do I get permission to go into Thailand and into the country? Like, what's the testing requirements and all this shit? So that was an aspect to it. And then at the same time, obviously, I was studying and doing broadcasts. I had limited time to try and coach. So I was doing the classic thing of like finishing a broadcast, then I'd go fucking watch some VODs, and I was like barely sleeping and shit to like make this work. And then when we went to Thailand, it was, we all made it there in one piece by some fucking miracle. And it ended up being a really, really good experience. And honestly, I've always thought that I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to be a manager. Like my degree, it has a lot to do with managing people as well, because that's always kind of been a natural thing for me, So if casting wasn't a thing, I really think that I definitely could have ended up being a coach. And I do genuinely think that I'm quite good at coaching and I'm quite good at managing people, and that I could be really, really, really good in that role if I committed to it. But it's another case of the same thing as playing. If you want to get into something like that, I would have to go back down to the bottom to make it anywhere and give up everything that I'm doing now.
All right, a couple of extra little tidbits that I wanted to talk about in specific for this event, because I've heard these stories from you and I thought they were kind of funny or interesting or whatever. So the first one was finding out that you were in the same group as Paper X. Now, obviously, for those who don't know, Paper X have kind of gone on to be one of the best teams in the world at this point. Certainly, they're definitely one of the best teams within the Asia region, and more or less a death sentence if you get them in your group. The other thing that a lot of people probably don't know about Paper X and Pilly is that we have I'll say reasonably close relationship with their management and some of their players, because we know them from Counter-Strike when they were boot.
Yeah.
So, you told me ahead of time before the groups went out. Sorry for, leaking your secret.
I did not say anything. No, what are you talking about? What the fuck? I didn't leak the groups. Fuck off, Jordan.
All right. Anyway, so you were in this call, right? And you were there and you told me that you had found you knew the groups, and you were messaging Nick or something like that.
Yeah.
So what was it like, kind of coming to that realization that you were kind of like, oh, we're fucked?
Yeah, I mean, it was fucking funny, and I knew that we would probably never beat them. And that was never I'm very realistic. And probably that's hindered some of my career, but yeah, as a player. But I was like, they're in our group. I'm not going to watch a single one of their VODs, and I'm not even going to try. Even if I watched their VODs, there would be no reads to get into, because we would play them and fucking Forsaken and Jing would run at us and fucking shoot us in the head and we would fucking die. So I wasn't even going to try and attempt Paper Rex, but it was just fucking funny that it worked out that way, because I called it before it happened.
Yeah.
I was literally messaging Nick and I was like, we're going to end like 100%. We end up in the same group, like out of this group draw. So yeah, the focus was never Paper Rex at the end of the day. Even though I'm pretty sure I was saying to Nick, like, oh, your team's fucking easy, bro. Like, this is my strat, okay? 1, headshot Forsaken. 2, headshot Jing. 3, Ben Kai's old and shit, so we're just gonna run him over, and then that's an easy W right there.
There you go.
So, but I don't know, bro.
Not quite how it played out.
No, well, we didn't play them, which
Yeah.
which was
funny and
the reason why. which is the reason why I never cared anyway. Because if we won or lost our first game, I wasn't going to care. I was going to say we're going to play PRX. We'd play with no pressure and not even care. I wasn't ever expecting to win that game. My whole mentality of that group was it doesn't even matter if we go upper or lower bracket. We'd win one game, we'd play Paper X, we'd lose, we'd play PSJ again.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, the only way to make it through that group is to beat PSJ twice. And that's how it ended up playing out.
And unfortunately, you lost to PSJ twice. So that's the next topic here. The first loss, I think, is kind of like, all right, whatever. Didn't play very well. You know, was actually like it was 2-1. But you look at the scores, you're like, what
I do have a story from that.
Well, tell the whole story because you know
Okay.
I'll set the scene. You lose 2-1 to PSJ. Initially, it doesn't seem like that bad of a loss, but you know maybe lots of learnings you can do. The second loss, all 3 maps go to OT. You know, there's a period there where it actually does look like Bonkers is going to win. And maybe there's a debate that it was a bit of like a throw in a way. I don't know Valorant well enough to make that call, but talk me through this whole, I guess, double best of 3 that you have to play against PSJ.
So the first BO3, the first map we won, and there was actually something really dirty that happened. It was like 9-8. I think we were up and we were attacking side Haven, and we had prepared a specific anti-eco that we would run to deal with the kind of light buys. We had a very specific execute that we wanted to do because my philosophy is, you know, anti-eco in CS was always spread pick, take no risk, group up, and then go hit a site together. But working with some of the players, they didn't agree with that philosophy at all. So I leaned into the philosophy of, okay, if we're not going to spread pick and we're going to choose to stick together, then we're going to use as much utility as we can to minimize risk and hit the site and make sure that there's nothing that's not covered. So we had a very specific anti-eco, and that's not something that I would bring series to series, but it was easier for the players to digest that way so that they just had less pressure in terms of their own decision making. It's like, we're just anti-eco, we're just going to do this fucking thing that's good against pistols. So that was the approach. And basically what happened was there was a pause because one of the players disconnected or something. And during that pause, we were already towards the C side of the map. And for anyone that knows anything about how stream delay works and tournaments work, you know, if you're we're in a ESL boot camp in a hotel, so you know there's monitoring on our PCs. The rest of the SEA players are playing at home, max chilling. You know, people might be looking a little bit at what they're doing, but not too hard. And I think the adminning at this event was definitely interesting. Let's just put it that way. And in general, there's a lot of cheating that goes on from some of these SEA teams that they have been punished for in the past and they've been warned about. And I think they get away with a lot, to be honest, or at least they used to in some of these tournaments. So basically what happened was there was a massive tack pause, and like then after that pause, we've been sitting outside C-Long ready to do our execute. Then we ran the execute, and then they said, and half of the team was there, and they see what we do. But apparently one of the players was still AFK. So the admin goes, no, that one didn't count. We're going to reset the round. Even though that makes no fucking sense. It's like, why would you send it live and then reset it because someone was AFK? So then when we go into the next round, some of them have seen our execute and we're kind of panicking and we're like, what the fuck? Like, that's so fucked up. Like, why is this happening? Are we going to run it? We're not going to run it. We're going to fake it. And look, I'm a coach. I can't talk in some of these positions. You know, you're only allowed to talk sometimes during tax, during freeze time and all that kind of stuff, not during tech. So they just said, fuck it, we're going to run it anyway. So, I mean, do you know about how like the character Breach can like stun down like a certain angle and then flash down a certain angle from like a long range away, and then Jet has like a dash and can pull out the knives. So yeah, we go to run these seaside execute, and right off the spawn barrier, that our whole team instantly gets stunned, instantly gets full blind, and then a Jet dashes and like kills like 4 of us with knives, all of us blind and fully stunned, when like they would never have known we were going to do that execute. But then we ended up losing that. We ended up winning that map, and we were like fully fucking hyped, and we we're like, they literally fucking cheated against us, but we won anyway. Like, fuck these guys, we're going to win this series. And then they proceeded to fucking 13 to us on the next 2 maps. And we just did not play well. So like that was a learning experience. And I think that was emotionally crushing for some of the players. And it was a lot of work to kind of turn that around. And then we played a Vietnamese team and we had a really good read on them. And that was like some of the best experience for me, because having a really good read on a team and preparing like a really good game plan, and then seeing the players, like I was even having like anti-strat to the point where I was like, they have this ultimate, they're going to run this, execute, and then seeing it happen in real time and telling one of the players, this is exactly how you play in this situation. And then him do that exact thing and counter the whole execute and get like a 4K and then just be super fucking hype and be super fucking happy is like some of the most rewarding shit ever. Like as a coach, like seeing something that you theory crafted work and then seeing the player be like enabled and super happy and like playing the best of his game and all that shit is like amazing. The last series, yeah, we won first map, I think. And then we were up 10-4 on the second map. And we were on defense and we had a game plan for it. But I think that the way that I designed the game plan was quite passive. And I told the players, look, this is how they play. They basically just play exec heavy, let them throw the whole exec, play retake, try and, fuck with them, try and spam them through the smoke. They're going to come in this way. They're going to try and plant a spike, all this kind of shit. We're going to try and counter that. And I think that what that ended up doing is the players believed in the game plan so much and followed the game plan so heavily and rigidly that they ended up, and I think nerves played a factor as well, but they ended up playing so passive that they kind of let the other team back into the game, and we ended up losing from a 10-4 lead. And then the last game was even worse. And I think that added a level of pressure. Like they were up so hard and then they were going to win and they threw it away. And that added like a lot of pressure. And a lot of these players were quite young. And then the last game, we were again up on Haven and we had a really good read and we beat them on Haven in the last series really well. And they actually loading into the Haven game, I knew that they were super uncomfortable on the map because they had a bad track record on it. And loading into the Haven game, they completely changed their comp. They changed like 3 of their agents at the last minute, and this was like within a 2-day span. Like there was no way that they could have like scrimmed this comp and got it together. So we loaded into the agent select screen on Haven and then the loading screen, and I was like, these guys have completely changed everything. These guys are fucked. Like they have no idea that like what they're gonna do. They put their like star player on Breach, which is like supportive agent. Like their star jet player was like one of their top stat players who was literally farming every game on a duelist. They put him on a Breach, and I was like, these guys are fucked. And we ended up going again up. We were up quite a bit, and we ended up like choking. And there was rounds where like we would have the bomb down and we would be throwing like the equivalent. It's like the equivalent of like having the bomb down in the open spot in CS and you've got like 3 mollies. And it's like you could just molly the bomb continuously. And then imagine that like they are retaking onto the site and you watch 2 players like throw the molly off the wall or like fuck up the molly and it doesn't hit the bomb. And then that adds more panic. And it's like literally just rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds of just throwing post plants over and over again or being up in numbers. And then one of their players just does some fucking insane play. Like I remember this guy called Famous, like there was one round where it was a 1v1. He had 1 bullet in his gun and he like on raise, like blast pack satcheled off the wall and like flew out and just like flick 1 beat someone in a 1v1 with 1 bullet in his gun and like won like a critical round that broke our money. And it was like the most fucking soul crushing series because we would have qualified in towards the playoffs, which I think would have mattered a little bit more than just finishing in groups. And would have been probably the best
been a result,
best
right?
achievement for an Oceanic team to date. And I think the team was, and there was even other shit like they couldn't bring their main duelist player and had to sub a player at the last minute. And even with all of those, like all of those caveats and all of these things going wrong, they were still playing well enough to potentially make it into the playoffs, and they just choked. And it was quite hard to swallow, honestly.
Yep. So disappointing into the tournament, but at least you got to come home early and you didn't have to spend another 2 weeks over there and push back more work, which I remember was a bit of a thing as well.
Yes, it actually ended up being kind of a good thing for other reasons. It was kind of a win-win situation. Like either I'm succeeding at this one thing or I'm gonna succeed at this other thing. But it was definitely hard. Like I was studying as well during that time. Like I was in the daytime. The players were sleeping in. I was getting up at like fucking 6, 7 a.m. because it's like a few hours behind, and doing my like tutorials and then doing my assignment and like reading my readings and shit. And then I was in the practice room first, like watching the fucking VODs. And then we would do scrims for like 8, 9, 10 hours.
Yeah.
So it was like long fucking days.
All right. Well, that's pretty much the end of the timeline. Like, obviously, it's been a bit out of order, right? Dreamhack was after going overseas, but like, yeah, as far as all of the major events in your career are concerned, we're pretty much up to date. So this is the point now where I have a couple of topics that I want to bring up that are maybe a little bit miscellaneous or didn't really fit into the timeline. But we're pretty much getting toward the end of things. So the first one I wanted to sort of talk to you about was how you cast and why you cast the way that you cast. Because I think obviously you come into it with a different approach to a lot of people that we work with, and the way that you go about your work is, I think, fairly unique actually within the region. So let's talk about, maybe people who have inspired you or helped you, or what things have influenced you on your journey to becoming a caster that have actually then made an impact as to how you end up casting. Why are you a color caster? What's that to do with your personality, or to do with your history, or to do with the people that you enjoyed listening to, and then beyond that, things you had to sort of work on, or such and such and such. We can get into that, but yeah, what's why does Pilski cast the way that he casts is pretty much the question, but in a shorter format.
I think just naturally filling a role that wasn't there. And I always saw, and I think it's the reason why I've found whatever degree of success that I've found, is that I've differentiated myself from what other people do. And I've tried to really head in that direction. And I've always tried to play towards my strengths, or what I perceived as my strengths. So, obviously learning the game and feeling like I could do a better job of summarizing the tactical aspects of the game than maybe other people were doing on broadcast. And I feel like I will never be, and it goes back to what I was talking about with hosting, is that I feel like I will never be able to build the skill set to be as good as someone who's talented at being hype, doing play by play, doing hosting and all that kind of stuff. I feel like I could build a skill set and be average at that, but I will never be as good as the people that are good at that. And so I feel like I can complement those people, and I can serve that role of, being the color and being the context and all those kind of things really, really well. And it's not only about understanding what your role is, but understanding what other people's strengths are and trying to complement them. And I think that's why I chose to cast with you as well, because I felt like I could really complement what you do as well. I think in terms of inspiration, I mean, I don't think I was inspired by any Counter-Strike casters. I was inspired probably mostly by Tasteosis. I think I still watch Artosis to this day, and I think that and that goes into like the feel good aspect of how we used to cast as well, and cracking jokes and stuff. They weren't always super serious. They had a good vibe. They were always having a laugh on broadcast. They were always a good mix of everything. And I think they complemented each other's strengths, and they also were like good mates. And I think that that's where a lot of my inspiration and casting style comes from, for sure.
So I want to talk about you as well, just your personality and you as a person coming into casting, being obviously kind of, I don't want to say necessarily reserved, because it's not like you were reserved as a person, but your on broadcast persona and whatever. And you even kind of got this little bit of a notoriety almost for being like the monotone guy. Like, I would talk to people and be like, everyone would be like, man, Pilly is so fucking boring. Like, why is he still casting? Blah, blah, blah. This kind of stuff. And I would say to them, I was like, well, you need to listen to what he's saying, not how he's saying it. Like, I understand he's not the most interesting person to listen to, but what he's saying is the content that we're trying to get from him. So
Yeah.
what was this journey like for you as a person? Because I feel like, knowing you for the last 5 or 6 or whatever years, however long it's been, I think you have actually naturally also gotten more confident just in day-to-day life as well. So is that because of casting, or is it like hand in hand, or is it just you're getting older and more mature and you're getting better at these things anyway, and that's helping your casting? How's that all sort of tying together, and how did you kind of break out of that mold where, you were just kind of the monotone caster guy?
I think it comes down to personal development Casting might play a small role in it, but I don't put it down to casting. I put it down to, I think, throughout a lot of my early like teenage years and like young adult years, I was struggling with a lot of like mental health issues and physical health issues and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that I didn't really go to school and things like that. Obviously I did still get an education and I wound up getting a degree and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't have a traditional route. And I think that definitely stunted a lot of my social growth and my ability to talk and all that kind of stuff. And I think that you know it's all just been breaking out of that mold has been definitely a process, and I really do feel like it's taken over a decade to not only deal with just obviously being a monotone caster and not having energy and stuff like that, which is also a side effect of some of the issues that I was dealing with, but also just break out of mental health issues and break out of dealing with the things that I was dealing with. So I think that it is just because I'm not depressed anymore, and I'm not sad, and I don't like hate my life and all those kind of things, and I've built up my identity, and I built up myself, and solved a lot of the issues that I used to struggle with. So it does come down to some degree of success casting, but also getting an education and forging relationships with people, and having personal relationships with people, and building a different sense of identity, both independently and codependently. And even just simple things like being active and lifting and doing all of that kind of stuff has all been positive growth and positive development that's allowed me to break out of my shell. But it wasn't an overnight thing. It went, I mean, right when I was in the peak of like being depressed and all that kind of shit, I was like basically housebound. This is when we're talking about playing Hearthstone and Counter-Strike back to back, and playing StarCraft and playing all these games where it wasn't a healthy thing, and it was a coping mechanism and all that kind of stuff. And it started with just forcing myself to go outside once a day when from being like basically housebound for like a year and a half, 2 years. And it took over 10 years plus to break those habits and break all of that negative cycle that I was in. And I think that, yeah, coming out the other side of that, yeah, I feel like I said, I've never been in a better place in my life. I've never been happier. I feel like I've never been better at what I've done. And I want that to keep continuing in a positive way, because you know I've got my education now, and I've had some casting opportunities now, but I really am kind of yearning for like what the next thing is this year. Like, it's January now, and I'm looking at 2023, and I don't want it to be what 21 was, where it's like stagnant and there's not personal growth and personal development. I think I really need a new challenge.
Well, who can know what the future holds? We'll find out. One thing you mentioned there that I wanted to touch on briefly as well is this sort of gym grind that you've been going on lately. And I mean, it's not like it's your personality or your brand or anything like that. Probably a lot of people don't even know that about you.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to sort of get your read on how that's impacted your life, because I think you're obviously someone that spends a lot of time inside doing gaming. You work in esports, blah blah blah. So what was the motivation for you to kind of take a step away from like that? What's the word? Like that not mentality per se, but that persona, and try to go into something that's like completely off the beaten path of that. You're not a gamer nerd now so much. You're going to the gym and you're doing this and that. And the other question I had was, should other nerds do it?
Yeah, I actually don't really see myself as a gamer anymore. And as you know, like, you're always asking me to come play games with the boys, and I just don't do it. Like, I just don't play games casually. I don't play games for fun. If I play games, I'm trying to grind and get like a good rank or something like that, and that's where I get my positive enjoyment out of it. But I don't really feel like I do enjoy gaming anymore. I think I've grown out of that a little bit. Even though I do enjoy broadcasting it, I do enjoy watching and following all the results. I love that part of it, and I don't think that's ever going to go away. But I don't really enjoy participating anymore unless it's in a very competitive way. What brought it about? Well, I used to have like chronic health issues and all that kind of stuff. There were periods in my life where I was overweight. There were periods in my life where I was borderline like eating disorder and like really fucking underweight. for different reasons, to do with like health issues and medications and all this kind of stuff. So I think the reason why I did it is a couple of years ago, I was helping my mate move house and um, trying to carry stuff and trying to, move couches, trying to lift shelves, trying to lift boxes, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, it was a side effect of a bigger issue, but it absolutely fucked me. Like just a basic thing like helping someone move house. I was literally like in bed for 2 days and I was fucked. I was like, I literally cannot move. I'm so tired. And it was a side effect of a bigger issue where this is the kind of advice that I've been given when I did have health issues before. You need to be like the advice you hear all the time is there's a reason why you fucking hear that. It's like, bro, did you sleep? Did you fucking go outside and exercise? Go for a walk? Did you get sunlight today? These are all super important things. And I kind of just decided, like, what the fuck is the point of me being a person or like me being a man that can't do basic shit? Like, I couldn't fucking put up a shelf if I wanted to. I couldn't fucking help someone move house, or I couldn't, fucking, lift up something if I needed to lift it up without absolutely fucking myself. And I think that now that kind of triggered me to be like, I really need to work on myself and I really need to fix up my physical health. And I would say for me, it's addictive. Yeah, I'm really addicted to the rush and the dopamine hit that I get from being physically active and working on myself. And it's the same thing as the gaming grind, it's a positive improvement. It's just me applying the same shit that I used to do, grinding a StarCraft ladder or playing Counter Strike every night to something else. And I think that gamers already have that inbuilt mentality in their brain. It's just a matter of applying it to something else. And I feel like the gym has been more rewarding for me than games have ever been. And it's like probably the only thing that's really giving me purpose at the moment because I don't feel like there's anything else really going on. But it's been a really, really positive thing for me. I've seen already I'm definitely nowhere near where I want to be. And I don't think I'm ever going to be the kind of person to brag about fitness. I'm never going to be the person that you see on Twitter post a gym pic. I've even even if people have asked for it, I've literally said no. Like I don't really feel comfortable doing that. So I don't think I'm ever going to be outwardly vocal about it because I don't do it for other people's validation and I don't seek other people's opinions. I literally only do it because it makes me feel amazing and it's something that is very, very rewarding for me personally.
There you go. Well, maybe if you want some advice, you can go to Pilski, but you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it for free. You have to ask.
I don't feel like I'm ready to give out
I'm not
advice yet.
talking about advice in terms of like how to lift and do that. I'm just talking
Oh
about
yeah.
life advice. I feel like you're at that point now where you're the kind of person that maybe
Yeah,
can give out
fucking old.
some real truths, some real life
Yeah.
advice to the gamer
To be
kids.
honest, bro, yeah, for maybe someone that was the age like that I was when I was struggling with all that shit, yeah,
Yeah.
I think I can definitely offer some advice. But actually, at the moment, I actually feel like I'm the one that needs some life advice, to be honest. I got some great life advice from Kameen the other night, and that was very helpful. But I don't think you ever get yourself in a position where you know exactly what you can do at the time. Yeah.
I will say the unfortunate reality about life that I am starting to learn is that it doesn't matter how good you get, how far you get, how successful you get, you will never feel like you're ready or you deserve it or you're in a position where you're an expert or that it's
Yeah.
enough. Every step that you make, there's going to be another step in front of you that you think, oh,
Yep.
I could get that, and then
Yep.
I'll be ready, and then I'll be able to have an
It's a double-edged
expertise or
sword.
something like that.
It really is a double-edged sword, man, because it's like you do need to practice gratitude and you do need to be grateful for the opportunities and the things that you've done, or you will just like self-destruct and put yourself in a really negative headspace. But at the same time, it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
You can't just be happy with what you've got.
Yeah, I can't remember what the term is or what it's called, but it's like the better you get at something, the worse you think you are at it.
Yeah.
And I
That's
think like
casting it. That's
that's
casting and that's
casting.
gym.
That's everything. It's life.
Yeah.
That is life. So a couple more things. One of the semi-unique things about your career, certainly not so much within the ANZ space, but within global casting, is that you do cast multiple titles, and more than multiple titles. You know, obviously we've spoken a lot about Counter-Strike, we've spoken a lot about Valorant. Those are kind of the two primary titles that you tend to build yourself upon. But in more recent times, you've also done things like StarCraft, Magic the Gathering, Warcraft, World of Tanks even. So talk to me a little bit about, you know, being involved in all these multiple titles and what that is like, why you have to do it, and how it kind of makes you feel, because I have my opinions on it and I want to hear yours.
So I never thought I would be the kind of person to do multiple games, and I never intended it. I never even thought I would be the person to be a caster. And some degree of it comes down to necessity. There just wasn't enough broadcasts back in the day where there was an analyst desk. So you had to be analyst desk and caster to be doing the kind of broadcasts that we're doing. At the end of the day, you can't make enough just doing one title in Oceania. So you have to diversify and you have to learn to do other things. How do I feel about it? I think some of them I don't feel like I deserve the opportunities that I've got, and I don't think that I bring enough to it to. From my background as a color commentator, you have to know your shit, and now I'm starting to engage in things and areas, and I've even like been considering a new different thing that is not any of those things that I was talking to somebody about recently, that I would be, if I did it, completely fucking out of my depth to do that.
Are you talking about
And
a
I'm even
different
considering
game
it.
or a
A
different
different
job?
game, different game. We won't talk about it right now because nothing's confirmed. I'll tell you after the podcast. But
Sure.
you know, I never thought I would do stuff like that. And I feel a lot of imposter syndrome. I feel like a bit of a fraud. I think less so on StarCraft because, like I said, I mean, and nobody knew this when I got picked up for the StarCraft broadcast. It was just a case of you're in Sydney and you're in the right place. But nobody knew I had actually played a fuck ton of StarCraft, and I'd actually played it to a certain level at least. And I had been a religious follower of GSL.
I did.
And like I said, oh yeah, you did. So maybe you put in a word for me. I don't know, but I was a religious follower of StarCraft. So it was actually uh I mean, it was kind of the case of like, you know, that Kev example of like, you know, this guy who you see like put on the broadcast and you're like, this guy has no fucking idea. Like this guy's not from StarCraft. But then I got to cast it and I got to do it and they're like, wait, what the fuck? Like I'm actually like doing a decent job. Like, you know, obviously my flow's a bit off and I'm not quite ready for it, but like I knew what I was talking about at least. And I did actually put some effort in to like learn that. When it comes to Magic, I mean, like I said, I had that background in card games. And to be honest, I did install Magic the Gathering Arena. And not that it's anything to brag about, not that it's anything that hard, but in 2 or 3 days, having never played Magic in my life, I just built one of the meta decks and grinded to the top rank like I hit Mythic because I kind of wanted to prove to the people that I was doing the broadcast or that were going to hire me to do the broadcast, like, oh, I did actually play the game. I did actually put the effort in. It's like I hit the top rank on the game. So that I did try to put a bit of effort into, but I have a lot of imposter syndrome about Magic the Gathering. Obviously, I'm not an endemic member of the community and I don't know enough about it. And the same thing goes for tanks. Definitely don't deserve that opportunity. And the same thing might go for something else if I end up doing it. But at the end of the day, to play devil's advocate to my own pessimism, I would say there is never there is always value to having someone on the broadcast who knows what they're doing, who knows who you have seen and you know that they can run a show and that they have that experience and they will always add value to the broadcast even if they don't know the game, even if they're not endemic to the game. And that's what feeds into all of us keeping on getting these opportunities at ESL Australia and all this kind of stuff, is because at the end of the day, if you're a project manager, if you're running any kind of business, you want to know, you know, like if I'm running a hospitality business, it's like, can that fucking 18-year-old bloke pour a beer? It's like, fuck, I don't know. But like, if he's had a job pouring a beer, then probably, you know, he might not know like a lot about this specific
Might not be able to
operation
make
or
a
like
cocktail, right?
this
But he can
specific
pour a
thing.
beer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, there's always value to having someone who has endemic skills and that, you know, will be able to perform that job. And if you're someone that's managing something, that's always going to be valuable to you. And the very specific skills and knowledge are not always going to be the thing that where the priority is. And that's why I guess I get these opportunities, because I've done just that many hours of broadcasting and all that kind of stuff. But like I said, there is still a fair bit of imposter syndrome about it. What do you think?
Well, I definitely get that as well. And I had the extra question for you that was, do you think you need to play the game to be a good caster, or do you think you need to be in the community, involved, endemic to that community? Because you've sort of touched on it there, but this is something that obviously I've struggled with as well. You know, I cast so many different games and have cast so many different games in my career that I've never felt like I've been endemic to any one community. You know, how crazy is that? That I'm now like probably 8 years into casting Counter-Strike, and I'm still like, am I really a Counter-Strike person? Or am
I
I?
think you are.
I mean, I think I am, but like, I'm also a PUBG person. But am I
Yeah.
really a PUBG person? I'm also an Apex Legends person. But am I really an Apex Legends person? I'm also
Yeah.
a League of Legends person. Like, that was the game that I first started going in. But I don't
Yeah.
cast League of Legends. That's the fucking saddest part of my career, is that the one game that I am the most into, which is LoL, I've never really been able to properly, you know, have a crack at it. But anyway, that's a whole different story.
Right.
But yeah, do you think you need to be endemic to that community to be a good caster, or do you think you need to be playing the game regularly to be a good caster?
So endemic to the community, I would say if you are going to be worth your salt as a color commentator or an analyst on a desk, I think you do need to be endemic to the community. And I do think that you need to play the game and have played the game to a good level to do a good job at that. And this is where I have a very pessimistic opinion about desk analysis and color commentary. And I think some of that comes down to how the shows have just been copy pasted. Esports shows are just copy pasted all the time. And I don't think that people have interesting opinions, or that people really use critical thinking or anything like that in those roles. And I don't think that tournament organizers, or in a lot of cases, most of the people that watch broadcasts fucking care about that at all. And I can't fuck with that. I got to be honest. Like, the amount of broadcasts, esports broadcasts, where there is people who do not have competitive experience, who have not even played the game to a good level, and they are an analysts, or they say that they are color commentators. I I don't vibe with that, and I think that people think that the base level of performing those roles is to just give your opinion. And it doesn't even have to be an interesting opinion. It could just be a really fucking bland opinion. Yeah. Fucking Timmy played well today. He carried the team, and that's why they won. That's their analysis. You're not analyzing anything. You're not adding critical thinking. You're not adding in depth discussion to anything. You are literally just repeating what happened. That's it. There's nothing interesting or good about that. And I fucking hate
I
it.
feel like I've hit a nerve here a little bit.
But in terms of hosting, in terms of interviewing, in terms of even play by play commentary, I don't think you need to be endemic to the community. I think you need to play the game enough to know certain aspects of it. And I think that you do need to kind of learn how, like, the mechanics of how to commentate the game. Um, but I don't think that you need to play the game regularly or be endemic to the game to be a good play-by-play commentator, or to be a good host, to be a good interviewer, to run a good show. I don't think that you need to do any of those things. But when it comes to, I mean, obviously, I have a strong opinion about what my role is and what my level of, like, what my area of expertise is, and the thing that I've done the most. But yeah, I would say that that is my biggest gripe. My biggest gripe is I feel like that people just don't care if you do a good. I don't think people even understand what it is to be a good color commentator or a good analyst. To be honest, I genuinely don't think that, and I don't think that people care about it. I don't think that the people that make the product care about it. I don't think that 80% of the people that watch the broadcast care about it.
Yep.
I think it's fucked.
So this is, yeah. I didn't really want to get into this as much as I think we have, but it is something that I see brought up a lot. Like, I see a lot of the time when I'm casting a game, people in the community, not necessarily about me. I'm not. It sounds like I'm talking about me, but just in general, there will be comments, and yeah, sometimes sure they probably are about me, but it's like these casters don't know what they're talking about, or they don't talk about the game as in depth as they should, and that's always coming from the players themselves. And the way that
Yes,
I think
which
about
is
it is
exactly why I got into commentating.
exactly, and that is a valid opinion. It is 100% a valid opinion, but that is also only maybe 10%, probably not even 10%.
Yeah.
In some cases, let's be real, like pro players are maybe like 1%. They are
Oh
the
yeah.
1%. And
And the
when
hardcore fans are like, yeah, I would say it's probably, yeah, 10, 20% of people, maybe even less than that. Maybe I'm overestimating it. But yeah, casual fans, I don't think can even, I mean, you have to present. That's the thing. Like, yeah, sorry, could finish your point because I think I know what you're going to say, but go on.
I was just going to say I think the issue is that most people, like you say, don't care about that kind of thing, or not that they don't care, but I think it's that they don't appreciate it. They don't appreciate the amount of effort and the amount of work and the level at which you have to be to have that kind of insight and that kind of knowledge. Like you need to be the 1%. If you're a pro player and you're saying the talent on the show don't know the game well enough, they need to be doing they need to be saying this. It's like you only know that because you are the 1%. You are the one living and breathing and fucking 8, 10, 12 hours a day this game. But the people that are watching this show are people that have come home from work, they put it on for an hour or two. As soon as the analyst desk turns on, they turn it off. They fucking
Yeah.
That's what I do. I don't listen to analyst desks 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there is also,
But what I will
to
say,
bridge that gap,
there
there
needs to
is
be a balance.
also, there needs to be a balance, but also there is a way to make these concepts accessible and to work them out. But it's just,
Mhm.
it's, I think people like the people that make these broadcasts is it's just too much effort. And
Yeah.
look, I'm just gonna fucking say it. Like I don't even care at this point. That is what Valorant is. That is what Valorant is. Everyone has gotten into Valorant. All of these people that work on Valorant, most of them, some of them are good, some of them are good, and some of them I rate them. And this is just my opinion, but I would say 90% of the people that work on the game don't have an in-depth opinion that is like valuable. They just repeat what happens. They just repeat what happens. This round they did this play and it worked because of this. Or like this round, or like this guy played well and that was the key to them winning. It's like you're not adding anything. I saw that happen on the screen, bro. Like you're not adding anything interesting to that at all. You're not adding any context. You're not a value add. But I don't think anyone fucking cares. The analyst desk is just a summary of what happened in the game. It doesn't add anything interesting or unique. And
Mm.
I think that's shit.
Well, 9 times out of 10, you don't even have the tools all the time really to go into that kind of thing. But that's a whole
Yeah.
different ball game and discussion. So, yeah, I mean, just to wrap it up, I think the best kind of broadcast you're going to have is going to be the broadcast that caters to everyone. So you're going to have the people that can cater to the casuals. That's me.
Yes.
That's me doing play-by-play, screaming when someone gets 2 kills in a row on an eco, whatever. The casuals fucking love that shit. That's going on the highlight reel. Let's go, boys.
Bro, you just got an ace. Why are you asleep, caster?
Yeah, and then you've got the middle ground where you're probably reaching that sort of hardcore audience that obviously understands natively the game. They know what's going on, but they don't necessarily 100% follow all the storylines. They're not
They're
here
not in
for
the
every
meta.
broadcast.
They
They're
might
not
not
up
have
to the
watched
meta.
the last
Correct.
tournament.
But you're able to sort of tie that all in together by, this happened at the last event and that's why this is important. And I feel like I kind of dabble a little bit into that as well,
Yeah.
where that's my strength is like storylining
sure.
and obviously play by play. And then you need the people like yourself or like the players. And this is why I love to get players on the broadcast because again, we don't, especially in Australia, but just in general, like you never really have that kind of an insight. Even, when you've got people dedicated to that role, you always get a bit of a different insight when it is a player. So then you have that 1 or 2 people that can really nerd out on the game when the situation calls for it. And I think that's the best case scenario. But anyway, we're probably going way too deep into this whole
This could be
topic.
its own video.
This could literally be its whole video, but whatever. I mean, it probably will be now. This is probably cut up into some sort of highlight VOD, whatever.
I was literally thinking to myself before we started this, like, it's done a few long ones. I won't ramble. I'll just keep
There's
it
not
to
that
an
much
hour.
to talk about, right? And that's what I was thinking as well. I like, dude. I'll give you a teaser, which by the time this is released, it's not going to be a teaser. I did one with Avril last week, and it went for 4 hours, and I was like, I'm not doing another 4-hour one. That was my whole day, and it took me like another whole day to edit it all because there was so much footage.
What was it? This one was like 2 hours or something.
We're at 3 hours now, by the way.
Bro,
So
fuck, I'm so sorry.
This
No
is
one's
gonna have to
watch
be
all this.
It's not.
But
for,
I had fun talking to you. That's the main thing.
The point is, it's not for other people. It's for me, and it's for you, and it's for the people that actually care about it. And so, that's the high level content maybe that you're talking about on the broadcast, that it's not going to reach 90% of people. And I fully understand that. This might only get 100 views, but to me, it's worth it because it's been a good talk.
If someone has watched this far, I want you to DM me pineapple, and I'll buy you at least 2 drinks.
There you go.
At least.
Dreamhack
event,
Melbourne.
2 drinks. Like, you've just earned yourself 2 drinks.
Yeah. All right, so we're pretty much at the end, as you can tell. The one thing I have to ask you before we go is, what are you looking forward to in 2023, or what's the outlook? You've already had a bit of a pessimistic moment, I think, about this, but where do you see things going in 2023? And what are you expecting out of this year? Because this will be something to look back on at the end of the year and see whether you were right or not.
I think that I'm kind of at a crossroads position where, purpose and career development and personal growth are at odds with my financial incentives. And I think that pessimistically, this will be maybe another year where there's a few highlights and a few things worth looking forward to. And I hope that I take hold of those opportunities, because I know that I'm ready for them and that I can fucking kill them if I get given them. But big picture, this year, I think there is a pessimistic outlook. There is I can probably make more money than I did last financial year, and I can get a couple of good opportunities, but I don't know if I'm happy with that. I'm yearning for something better. I want some personal growth. I want some personal development. I'm in a position for the first time in like 11 or 12 years where I really don't have anything tying me down. I finished studying. I don't really have any personal relationships that I have to lean on, or anybody that I really have to support and that needs me. So I'm kind of dabbling with the idea of just like, am I willing to throw everything that I'm doing away? Basically, I've climbed this ladder. The way that I think about it is, am I willing to climb back down this ladder, right down to the bottom, just for a chance that I could get on the ladder next to me and potentially climb a few rungs higher? And that's the thing that I'm very deep. That's like my whole deep life gripe at the moment. And the thing that I'm constantly thinking about is like, am I willing to throw everything away for an opportunity to do something bigger? Because I don't think that opportunity is going to come knocking if I just sit around waiting for it.
Indeed. So, one goal or wish for the year?
Do a stadium event and do a really good job, and a bigger one than Dreamhack. This Dreamhack was good and we did a good job, and it was special bubble, and there was some people watching it, and there was plenty of people that enjoyed it. But let's be real, it was a Dreamhack, and it was on the smaller side. And I want to do an IEM. I want to go overseas. I want to do a big event. I want to make some forward progression or forward movement on Valorant that isn't just casting domestic leagues over and over and over again, because I've done that already for like 5, 6, 7 years, and I don't think I can keep doing that forever.
Hi there. If you made it this far and you're enjoying the content, please make sure you subscribe. Or if you really want to go the extra mile, you can support me on buymeacoffee.com/elfishguy. There's a link in the bio.